You know what the biggest missed opportunity of this game is? Story-wise, I mean. You have an entire adventure where Knuckles and Tails are spending time together, but you never get to see how they think of each other and what exactly their friendship dynamic is. Like, what does Tails think of Knuckles? What does Knuckles think of Tails? Does Knuckles think Tails is just a nerd and doesn't really understand him? Do they have a big brother, little brother bond of their own? I don't know. They never really interact at all. All we ever get to see is a Sonic and Knuckles interaction. That's it. We don't even get to see a Sonic and Tails interaction. We don't get Sonic treating Tails like a little brother, and it's all heartwarming and stuff. All they ever focus on with Team Sonic is the Sonic and Knuckles bicker. That's it. On the bright side, the team banter does provide hints, which is very convenient for when you're first playing the game, because it means you don't have to waste time trying to figure out what character to switch to, because the game thinks for you. That along with the icons everywhere. It's good to have faster reaction times in a Sonic game. So it's good to have those icons there, because you immediately know, instantly, which character you're supposed to switch to. And having to be able to listen to hints from your characters telling you which character to switch to is also very helpful. It just sucks that most of the character banter is the hints, which makes you wonder why you can't just turn it off, since it's basically Omochao, except much more tolerable, because it's your actual characters talking, not some boring tutorial robot whose only character is to give you all these hints. But yeah, this Team Blast glitch, one of the biggest problems with it is that you're constantly slipping and sliding all over the place every time you use it, because when you switch characters, for some reason, you move forwards. Why do you move forwards from a standstill when you switch characters? That's stupid! That means you have to move around in a circle desperately trying to avoid running off the edge when you're using the Team Blast glitch. Not to mention how extremely annoying it is hearing repeated voice clips of your characters when you're constantly switching over and over again. Why does a character have to have a voice clip every time you switch to them? Like, that's another complaint about this game, that there's way too many voice lines. Like, every time a character talks, like every time the power type uses an attack, he talks. Knuckles never said anything in SA2 when he punched an enemy. In this game, he's like, shit, rock, shit, rock. At the very least, though, it can be pretty cathartic, like making Knuckles use the fire duck attack and the regular attack, because then you can vent out your frustration with the level by having Knuckles himself curse out in frustration.
Don't get too excited, boys!
He says boys even if you're playing as Team Rose, which is mostly girls.
Woohoo!
I wonder if that's supposed to be foreshadowing, since I guess, well, there's no way the Metal Sonic is that stupid that he doesn't know that
Why is
most of
there
them are
so many
boys.
of
It's just
them?
script laziness. On the bright side of the script, it's only badly translated in the sense that the actual written script is. Like, there's typos and stuff. There's not any vocal translation issues for the most part. Like, the only big script error I can think of is, look at all those Eggman's robots! Which just, it's charming, and it makes it clear that they, for some reason, decided to do a surge at the last minute, replacing Badniks with Eggman's robots. Even though a big thing about this game's aesthetic appeal, and the whole marketing behind Sonic Heroes, was that it was supposed to be a 3D Sonic game that's a better transition between the classic era and the Dreamcast era. I'd say that's too late because the adventure games already happened, but it's a nice attempt. I mean, there's a 2-act structure with 2 levels that have the same aesthetic, and there's a more lighthearted tone until the end where it gets serious. In general, I love it, And like I love the bright color palette. This is basically how a Sonic game should look. I even like the character models as long as they're not all close up in the intro. Like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles do not look good at all when they're close up and talking. But I love how they look in the gameplay. Even if they are way too shiny. Like they don't really have a texture, they just have they're just colors. But they do look pretty nice. Like in general, this game looks really nice. At first, it was kind of hard for me to get used to the fact that it's not like it's not like there's a button for each type of character. And it's like there's not like there's a speed type switching button, a power type switching button, and a flying type switching button. I guess there aren't enough buttons on the controller for that. Instead, I'm Sonic right now, and that means that pressing Y switches me to Tails and X switches me to Knuckles. And you can tell that whenever you look at the right north corner of the screen. So it's not like it's easy to forget which button you have to press, because literally all you have to do is look at the character icons and you immediately know which buttons you have to press. But that doesn't stop some people from getting into the really bad habit of just mashing the Y button until they get to the character they want, which wastes time. I didn't really let myself get into that habit though. I just quickly look at the corner of the screen and decide, okay, this is the button I need to press. So that's good HUD design. What's not good interface design is that, see the orbs next to, like Sonic's icon has 3 orbs below him. Bet you didn't notice that, right? I wouldn't blame you because they're so small and white and not at all standing out. Apparently those 3 orbs are supposed to represent the amount of levels you have. Why can't there just be a number there instead of just orbs? It took me until like the Chaotix playthrough for me to finally realize what that was supposed to mean. To this day, like, I had a hard time figuring out on site which level my character was at. Like with Team Rose when I wasn't like using codes. But now to talk about the actual level itself, the big focus with these 2 levels is on grinding. I don't really like the parts where you fall onto a rail, and like, sometimes the game is perfectly scripted to land you on the rail, but sometimes it doesn't do that. And so you fall to your death. There's lots of trains. Like there's green trains that are actually enemies that you can kill with a Thundershoot, which is something I didn't actually learn until Team Chaotix when I was forced to defeat them. The music also isn't that great or memorable. Like for one of them it's really repetitive. And it just repeats itself forever. Another problem with the Advance is that because they're so big, it's all the harder to get off them so that you can switch to Knuckles, because that's a big thing, is that you can't switch characters mid-air. And that's what makes this level so tedious sometimes, when you have to switch rails and you have to worry about the game glitching out on you and fleeing you too far. Because if you fall, you can't switch to Tails and start flying. And one of the biggest problems with this level design in particular is that suddenly, like, the camera doesn't really show you that you have to jump. You just get caught between 2 dash pads. Because the camera isn't showing you upwards. Like, it isn't really doing a good job. It doesn't help that when you're in the flight formation, because you want to make absolutely sure that you won't fall to your death, rather than the speed formation where you grind much faster. And like, that's the whole appeal of grinding, is to go fast. And that's why I absolutely love the fact that there's dash pads on the grind rails, which I don't know why games didn't do that before this game. But my point was, the camera isn't really that great for seeing what's ahead of you when you're on the rails with a flight formation. You just see totem poles, you see your characters, and you have to hold R in order to see what's ahead of you. This is so stupid. I did not want to rail switch. I wanted to jump and then fly. This isn't very fun. Like you land on the center rail, and the center rail ahead of you gets destroyed. And so you have to really quickly, like, you're guaranteed to die there the first time you play the game. Hey, look, dummy ring bombs. Like, this is something that 06 actually didn't introduce. This game did. I mean, the bombs part makes sense because Tails attacked with bombs in Tails' Adventure. But why can't he just jump into enemies like Sonic, like he did in every other game? It's good as a projectile weapon, but it would have made more sense for him to have actual bombs. Ring bombs, it doesn't make any sense, because wouldn't you just mistake them for regular rings? And what inspired him to make them look like rings anyways? One of the big problems with these two levels is you constantly have to grind into switches that turn the rails that you're going on to face a different way. And with Bullet Station, which is much worse for Team Sonic, like for Team Rose, Bullet Station is actually not a problem at all because you don't need to rail switch once. But for Bullet Station, it's even worse. Like you're going to die a lot, and it's all about the triangle jump in this level. Like the triangle jump is much more of a focus. I was worried that when the panel flipped over that I was going to get knocked off the wall by it, but thankfully that didn't happen.
Leave it to me.
But yeah, the bright side is this level doesn't have a huge focus on combat like the previous zone didn't either. That's one good thing I can say about the pinball levels, is that they don't have a huge focus on combat. Instead, they have a huge focus on the awful pinball that sucks. That's another thing that the power type can do, is they can use the fire dunk attack to break through stuff that's beneath them and progress, which I like. I also like destroying that thing, and that's a nice dynamic set piece. Like you blast over with the dynamic camera angles. Like your mission statement for this level is to destroy Eggman's base, which is stupid because you're not in Eggman's base at all. Eggman's base isn't until the final level in the game. Like, that's another confusing thing, is that they start out Team Sonic's story saying that you have 3 days until Eggman conquers the world. But I think it's starting with Rail Canyon that Tails says that they only have 24 hours left. But if you pay attention to the passage of time, how can they possibly have all of these levels after Rail Canyon take place in just the span of 24 hours? Like there's 3 levels that take place at night, and the penultimate level takes place at day, and the final level takes place at night. And then you have like Frog Forest and Lost Jungle, which are all at day, and the zone and the most unique zone in the game takes place at night. So that's like 2 days. How do they have enough time? Like, it wouldn't be so glaring because they didn't need to have a 24-hour limit. But they did.
Let's go.
But yeah, the camera does not really let you see much of what's below you or what's ahead of you when you're in the flight formation, because you're too tall. So it's a really good thing that you have proper camera control, because I don't think that you could. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't know if you could like rotate the camera to allow you to see more of what's ahead of you when grinding in SE2. But you can do that in this game without having to worry about the camera snapping back as soon as you move. It's not camera control, that's camera suggestion. All you have to do to press all of these individual switches at once is just go into them with the flight formation, and you'll drop off a character one by one, and they'll all be standing on switches. The problem is that much later in the game you'll have enemies attacking you, and so you'll have to defeat them first, or you're going to get attacked while your characters are standing there, and so you'll have to start over. And yeah, as you can see there, I got into the habit of having Knuckles express my utter rage at a level by going like, shit, rock, take this, take this. That's what's so charming about this game. That's how you do a lighthearted tone right. Like, it's charming. I'd rather have so-called cheesiness. Fuck the word cheese. I mean, and like, seriously, like, it's just a synonym for I think it's bad, therefore it's bad. I don't like it, therefore it sucks. It's so, like, it's never really, people never really fully explain why something is bad because it's cheesy. There's no real clear definition to cheesy. Like, I looked it up, and apparently it's just a synonym for bad. So, that can mean anything. But yeah, before this I was really annoyed at the game hiding a switch on me, and had to go along a very narrow path that curved around at that. Although, you'd think the controls make that bad, but actually, again, because of the flight formation, you can just fly over it, no problem. Like, even if the game was controlling slippery, it wouldn't matter because of the fact that you can just get into the flight formation anytime, which one, slows you down, so the controls can't possibly be slippery then, and two, you can just fly around to make the platforming a lot easier to get right. I hate how long this takes. It honestly took me so long that I was worried that I was running into an anti-piracy measure and was stuck there forever. I mean, it is fun to play. Like, it's fun to go left and right to land, to go through ring balloons, but it just lasts a bit too long. Bullet Station also, not only is this cheap, like, again, how are you supposed to not die there the first time, but it also suffers from checkpoint starvation, this level. Like, you go 7 minutes into the level, and then you die, and then you're back before the second train section. You're 4 minutes in. I vividly remember when I first played this level, the game ignored that it hit checkpoint. It's a good thing that it conveniently switched me to Knuckles automatically there, because I needed to use him, like, right away. Like, I noticed right from the first level that sometimes when they automatically switch you to a character, you don't really get benefited from that. Sometimes they switch you to, like, the wrong character when you want to be a different one. But other times it's a really good decision. Like when they switch you to a power type when you're going up to a section where you want to break, like, blocks. But yeah, see what I mean about repeating level design? Why do we have to have 2 train sections? Like, this, like, sure, it's completely different level design from the previous train section. Like, you didn't have to triangle jump before, but still, Rail Canyon and Bullet Station have, they're one of the most repetitive level design, like, levels in the game. But I'll admit that this level, these levels do grow on you. Like, when you get better at the game, because you get to appreciate the speed. Like, the problem, I'll talk about this later, because this really sucks. Look at this. It's hard to tell when exactly you should press the A button to jump to get over stuff, because if you hit, like, the lasers, or sometimes you're not allowed to hit enemies. If you hit too many stuff, then your partners get knocked off, and if you get hit a 3rd time, you die. And what's really frustrating is Tails is clearly just fine. He's not lying on the ground hurt or anything, but you still die. That's stupid. That's what's so enraging about dying to an enemy in Sonic Heroes. Your character is still, like, why can't you just switch to the other characters? Like, sure, the character you're playing as died, but the other 2 didn't. I guess that would make things too easy. But it's like, I just hate this trolley car so much, and it was fine in Seaside Hill because there was just a set piece. It was just a fun, thrilling, automatic, like, you didn't have to do anything. Like, it just steered for you. It's a really good thing I landed on that grind rail there. But yeah, you can appreciate this level for its speed, like with hitting dash pads on the grind rails all the time. And like using the speed type, because when I first played this level, I only had the flight formation. And you move so slowly on the grind rails in the flight formation, but I want to keep it that way because I didn't want to actually bother using the rail switching mechanic and risk dying. Here's the big problem with the rail switching mechanic. In this game, it just flings you sideways, and I think it might be based on how far you're holding the control stick left or right. If you hold it too far, then you'll get flung too far sideways, and so you'll get flung twice as far as you normally would, and you'll die. I know for a fact that it's not based on holding the B button down, and your acceleration getting added to the rail switching, because I made an absolute point in this playthrough, and my second playthrough on the GameCube, to never rail switch while holding the B button. Never once. And even then I still got flung twice as far as normal. Ironically though, the amount of times that's happened to me can be counted on one hand. I also remember one time though when I was rail switched in the opposite direction that I was actually holding. How does that even happen? No, the real big problem with the rail switching in this game is how easy it is to do it by accident. When you're just trying to jump and start flying. Like, you saw me fall to my death at one point because I rail switched and I ended up falling to my death, falling into the camera. It's like rail switching is never as mandatory as I thought it would be. It's not like every single level forces you to rail switch.